Hello, and welcome back to Sharing a Chapter a Day. This is Do, Ra, me, and today I will be reading Chapter 125 of Engagement in Peril by Dara, Odoe, Suk. Chapter 125 is titled Shinshin Comes Home with the Tailors. Captain Taylor's outstanding long naval career and service was coming to an end those autumn months of 1980. He had thought about resigning and doing another tour or two with the service, but with the tragic demise of Kushina and what life had thrown at her, he felt that it was best time to retire and raise Shinshin. After all, he thought he had already served over 24 years in the service and had given much to the Navy, Marine Corps, and had seen much during the numerous stint with the armed services then, and he knew he would be getting a full retirement pension since he had already served over the 20-year requirement. He and his wife were an older couple and will be an older parents too, as he thought, and they wanted to devote as much time as possible to the child that will come home with them, who they would be calling their own. The good captain discussed his retirement with his darling wife, and both agreed that he should retire and return to the state with their newly adopted child. Happily they agreed, and the good captain put in his retirement papers and documents shortly after. Meanwhile, Shinshin was hardly grown well. As an infant, he had accepted his new parents and seemed to love them as much as the tailor were loving him. They got pretty much every they got pretty much everything for him. He was wearing brand new name American baby clothing and had the best toys and the best of the tailors. While the good captain was away at work at the command medical facility, Shinshin was looked after and loved by Mrs. Taylor, who, with her warm, affectionate heart, gave him her all. She fed and nourished him more than the average babies on and about the island there in Okinawa. She pampered, they both pamper him to their heart's content. While Captain Taylor was busy at work and tending to patients and such, Mrs. Taylor took the responsibility of packing and raiding their home for the last big move home. She had hired some Japanese help to pack boxes and store for her furniture, kitchen utensil, clothing, and other material items that they had accumulated all these years in Okinawa. Mrs. Taylor had also looked into finding a home in the Laguna Beach area, California. Homes that are closer to her longtime girlfriend home there in Laguna. She talked to her girlfriend about the reality there and asked for her help in finding a nice place for them and their new baby boy. The good captain had to attend several mandatory classes of adjusting to civilian life before he was allowed to sign off and out of the Marine Corps command then. His staff at the medical facility threw him a nice retirement going away party, and he was given some gifts and trinkets as remembrance of his stay there in Okinawa. In appreciation and great thanks for his staff show of affection, the good captain cried a little with gratitude as he gave them all hearty embraces. That mid-November of 1980, after all was packed, shipped out, and with all his documents of discharge, adoption, and travel ready in hand, the good captain and his wife, with their new 3-month-old infant, boarded a military Mac plane and headed toward Tokyo to catch their Japan airline flight back to the States. During the flight, Shinshin cried several times. His newborn ear were popped several times from the high elevation of flight, but his loving parents were there to make sure he was comfortable. They both took turns holding and embracing him to give him the comfort of their hearty, warm bosoms. The flight from Okinawa lasted several hours, and once they arrived, they went to their assigned gate to catch their Japanese airline flight, which was due to leave in a little over an hour from their arrival. Since the good captain was military, they got through security and checkpoint pretty easily. They had all their paperwork in order, and Shinshin was good to go as well. It seemed pretty odd to Japanese native that they're in the airport seeing an African American couple with a mixed Japanese baby. But no one really questioned about Shinshin. They kept pretty much to themselves and maintained their customary politeness. Once at their assigned terminal and gate, the tailor boarded their flight, first with the rest of the couple and family who had small children. They were seated in the first class section of the international airport numerous compartment. There was plenty of room for Shinshin as he was held and slept atop Mrs. Taylor's bosom. Shinshin seemed to have gotten used to the flight now. He was more relaxed and slept most of the way during their 17-hour-long flight back to Southern California. Mrs. Taylor awoke Shinshin several times throughout the long flight to give him his feeding and such and change his soiled pampers. Pretty much everyone on the flight slept most of the way during the long journey home that late November. As soon as they slept, they were awakened by the landing of their flight at the Los Angeles International Airport. In his slumber, Shinshin didn't pretty didn't pretty much pay attention to what was going on around him. He was gently carried out of the plane and into the LAX terminal and such. They all went through custom and were cleared to go through the rest of the airport area as well. Once outside in the pickup drop-off area and was with several small luggages in hand, Mr. Taylor left Mrs. Taylor's side for a moment to signal for an airport shuttle for his family. The blue commercial van pulled up to where the Taylors were. The driver exited the van to help load the few items that the Taylor had, and once all boarded his van, the driver asked where the Taylor were headed. "Hello, where are you couples headed?" "Laguna Beach, please." Mrs. Taylor gave the driver their new home address, which her girlfriend had given her several days earlier before they had left Okinawa. With that in mind, the driver headed out of the massive LAX airport and took the freeway toward Laguna Beach, California. The taxi driver took the 110 South freeway. After about 7 miles, he merged onto the 405 South for another 27 miles of freeway road. While heading south, he then merged onto the California 73 South Highway, headed toward San Diego, and exited on Laguna Canyon Road, California 133 South Highway. And while heading south still, the van and the people inside passed several large and small cities on the way to the new home in Laguna Beach. They passed Los Angeles, Inglewood, Hawthorne, Torrance, Cherry Pineapple Grove, Long Beach, Seal Beach, Huntington Beach, Irvine, Costa Mesa, and Mission Viejo before arriving and entering into the lovely coastal city of Laguna Beach, California. The blue commercial van pulled up to their home in Laguna Beach, situated in front of the Shaw Cove Beach area and only several blocks below and away from the Mrs. Taylor's girlfriend home, situated atop the higher bluff area. Shaw Cove is a beautiful plants and flower-covered cove that I usually go to relax and swim. No surfers are allowed there, only boogie boarders and those who want to scuba dive and snorkel. Also a great place for fucking each other's brains out when no one is watching and when you walk about to the other end of the bluff. The area is pretty secluded. Not many knew about this place then, but now everyone goes there. It was here that I often It was here that I often patrioted and brought Delilah to several times to fuck in and out of the clear blue water. I ravaged that whore several times in the sand dune and under the lifeguard tower of Shaw Cove high chair. I should have told Shinshin then that I was what I was doing with his girlfriend, his so-called lover, but I was getting my fix, and that's all that mattered to me then. Getting my fix, getting my load off and such. I am really sorry for my promiscuity against Shinshin. With her baby in hand, Mrs. Taylor thanked the driver, with her husband paid and tipped the man for his work of safely driving them home. Standing at their new home entrance, Mrs. Taylor's longtime girlfriend, Sherry, from her side, their girlfriend and her girlfriend's husband, Sherry rushed out of the house and warmly embraced her childhood girlfriend. While Shinshin was enveloped between the two mothers, she then backed off and moved on to Captain Taylor and gave him a good long welcome back embrace as well. "Sherry, here's our baby boy, Shinshin. Isn't he adorable?" Mrs. Taylor said, telling her good friend of their newfound joy. "How precious! How precious, darling. You got one of those Japanese baby boy, huh? He's pretty big for an Asian, isn't he?" Her friend sort of sneered and questioned about the new infant in Mrs. Taylor's arm. With joy of her friend's return, "Well, anyhow, congratulations to you both." She gave some signs of approval about the Taylor's first and only child. After their initial introduction to Shinshin, Sherry showed the new parent their home, handed them their keys, and gave them the layout of the space, rooms, and the area inside and outside. Their furniture and worldly possessions had already arrived about a day or two ago and were still in their boxes and packages. After looking through some rooms and such, the Taylors were invited to their friend's home for dinner that afternoon. Their first day and the few hours there in their new home, the Taylor didn't bother unpacking or sorting out their junks and gear. They sat back on their couch and relaxed for the moment in warm embrace, only tending to Shinshin and his infant needs. He was once again fed and changed several times. That afternoon the Taylor had a good long dinner with their good friend Sherry at Sherry's place, accompanied with long conversation and stories of their adventures and wandering while they were living in Okinawa, Japan. Captain Taylor didn't want to tell his wife's friend about Shinshin's mother and how tragically she had died. He wanted to make sure that his wife's friend would accept his and his wife's beloved baby boy. The Taylors stayed the night at their friend's home in a spare bedroom, once morning broke through, they awoke, thanked Sherry and her husband, and walked down the road back to their home, several blocks down the hill, with their baby boy in tow. Shinshin had made few ruckus or commotion while the adults were in conversation and discussion throughout the previous night. He seemed to be still jet lagged from the long flight, so he slept most of the time spent at Sherry's home that first night in Laguna Beach, California. First thing that they did was to assemble the baby crib so that Shinshin could be comfortably stowed away while they went about unpacking and putting their homes in order. The good captain had no trouble in assembling the baby crib. He was good that way. After all, he was a surgeon, and he was great with his refined hands. With Shinshin safely cradled in a baby crib and comfortably resting, the tailor gradually put their home in order. Bed frames and mattresses were assembled and put together, mirrors and pictures were hung on and all about the wall, lights and fuses were ignited and turned on, drawers and dresser were packed and assembled and accordingly. Kitchenware and utensils were put in their place, glasses and dishes placed and stacked in framed glass cupboards and cupboards cupboards atop the kitchen sink and counter. The baby room took the longest to organize. Both the husband and wife had to discuss a few times, lovingly argue about what went where and what didn't. The loving couple spent almost the entire day unpacking and sorting out their items and gear. By nightfall, all seemed good to go. The loving couple, with their baby boy in hand, went out for dinner at a local bistro where they dined with a scrumptious seafood and red wine. The brisk Southern California November night, the Taylor walked back home after their nice dinner, taking turn carrying their baby boy home. With their stomach filled and a little tipsy from several bottles of red wine, the loving couple arrived home and put their baby boy and themselves to bed. With soft jazzy music playing in the background, the couple and their baby fell sound asleep that breezy November night. The next morning, after a hearty breakfast was served and shared, Mr. Taylor excused himself and kissed and embraced his wife and good boy and good child. Bye for the day, well, he left their home to meet up with his new boss and staff at a private medical firm that he was hired on as a medical advisor. In his stylish, newly purchased dark suit and power tie, he drove himself several miles down the road to the massive private Laguna Beach medical facility. He was greeted and welcomed by the receptionist out out front of the large staff hall then. He didn't have to wait or had to be seated for any further instruction. He was met with his boss and several of his colleagues and taken into the large meeting office to discuss and review his qualification and expertise. His first day of work went well, and his knowledge and was a great asset to the staff at this private medical firm. From then on, Mr. Taylor made great above than average steady income to support and care for his family of three and their daily expenses in Laguna Beach. In short, Mr. Taylor was able to afford the life of lavish spending and some extravagant and some minor luxury for his small family unit then. Thank you for listening. This is the end of chapter 125. Be on the lookout for chapter 126. Title: Shinshin loses the Taylors. This is Do, Ra, me, and I'll see you later. Thank you.